People who watch security cameras for a living. What creepy things have you tried to forget? I'm a little late to the party, but here goes. I am a correctional officer on the night shift, so my job involves a lot of watching cameras and performing cell checks. One night, I'm sitting in my office around 300 and some movement on the CCTV catches my eye. I look up and there is this big dude walking through my jail, looking like he was on a mission. The only way into the jail is through the booking room right next to my office, and I was 100% sure nobody had walked past me, so my mind starts racing. Did I leave a cell door unlocked? Has a violent inmate escaped? Our cameras are old and the halls are dark at night, so I couldn't see many details on the guy. Just that he seemed to be scoping all the other inmates out as he made his way through the cell blocks. As I'm trying to process all of this, I see him suddenly stop and change direction, starting beeline straight to my office. With no time to do anything else, I jump up and run over to the door and get ready for the fight. I waited for what felt like an eternity for this guy to bust my door in, with a full-on adrenaline rush, but he never showed up. I glanced back at the cameras and he was gone, disappeared into the ether. After scratching my head for a minute, I went to review the footage. That's when I realized that there was a glitch in our camera's playback that had caused a half-hour delay, and the guy in the video was just me doing a cell check and heading back to my own office. Never been more relieved in my life. So many of these will give me nightmares, so I'll throw one in the mix that I never want to forget. A year back I was working at a hostel and we have security cameras throughout the building. Watching the footage from the camera in the kitchen. It is about 2 AM and a very drunk guest walks in, grabs some snacks and accidentally drops an empty bottle on the ground. He then proceeds to kick it up into the air, then kick it again in air, where it flies across the entire length of the room perfectly into the recycling bin. In his drunken state he threw up his hands, ran around in a circle clearly in shock at how amazing he is. Then after looking around he noticed there was no one there to see it. After that he looked visibly depressed and stumbled back out of the kitchen. This was around 1997. In college, was a traffic reporter in a largish city. I worked in a studio with live video feeds from our cameras all over the city region. One Monday afternoon another reporter came running in and yelled, "Turn camera number 7 to the underpass by big football stadium." A man and woman were going at it big time over the hood of his truck. After about 7 minutes, they took a break, and he got sandwiches and beer out of a cooler in the back. After snacking, they went at it again. After about a half hour one of us suddenly remembered that one of our TV affiliates had started linking the video feeds on their website. Oh, you mean sex? I was so thrown to think that two people were fighting over the hood of a truck and then stopped for snacks. The closest to a horror movie viral thing I've ever seen. Some of the patient rooms in our hospital on the psych floor have cameras to help monitor patients so they don't move around too much or hurt themselves, since they are often confused, etc. Obviously the night vision low light camera makes everything look creepy. One night a phlebotomist came running out of a room totally freaking out. We looked at the camera footage to see what had happened. Patient was an old lady. Video shows a dark empty room. The phlebotomist walks in and sees that the bed is empty and thinks they must have moved the patient. At that point as she turns around the door swings and standing behind the door looking at her what I can only describe as pure hatred in her eyes is the patient, naked, with her long hair down to her waist. The phlebotomist was scared as anyone would be. She finally managed to say, "Mrs. Shelby, I'm from the lab and I'm here to draw some blood. Is that okay?" And the patient just said, "No, get out." Phlebotomist didn't need to be told twice. We walked over to the room and the old lady was back in bed sleeping as peaceful as could be. Never remembered a moment of it. I'm not in security, but I work for a bank and part of my job is checking the cameras in the morning for pings overnight, and then making sure all the pings were just squirrels or leaves, etc. Last week I saw a ping on our back entrance camera, and when I went to watch the video, it was a guy I didn't recognize walking back and forth in front of the door at 3 AM for a solid 20 minutes. Like just pacing the whole time. And every couple minutes he'd stop and walk up to the door and stare into the camera. Then he'd go back to pacing. A car eventually went by and that must have set something in him off because he legit ran away and didn't come back. We ended up calling the cops about it, but I still have no idea who he was or what his deal was. Spent a few years working front desk for various shifts at a few hotels. Moved a lot during this time, so I got a pretty big sampling of people from here and there. But the one thing I will never forget was right here in my home state of KY. In broad daylight, a woman who did not have a room with us walked into the pool area from the large, sliding glass window, speaking on her cell phone with a bag hanging from that hand, and a toddler walking with her on the other hand. She let go of the toddler, then proceeded to get completely nude and continue her conversation standing in the pool area, not the pool itself, just the pool area. Tried to forget this one. Was in college, working for a security company at a manufacturing plant. We had a gate that faced near an airport. Back road. There were no sidewalks on this road and it was often busy as a cut through to another high traffic road. Saw intoxicated guy, drugs or alcohol, try to walk on the curb like a balancing beam, sleep and fall in front of an oncoming truck that was speeding through the area to get around the backed up traffic. This was in broad daylight, around 4 in the afternoon. Before he fell, we pulled him on the camera and made the comment, "He's going to get himself killed." I used to work IT at a university, and last Easter we had a break-in. We found the footage of the guy going in at 2 PM, leaving at around 3, and not really taking anything. Fast forward to 7 PM and the guy comes back in and is walking around the auditorium till 6 AM the next morning. In that time he proceeded to strip into his underwear, steal and wear a mask the Japanese exchange students made for the teacher, and smoke a shit ton. He managed to steal 6 full bags of random items. We've dubbed him as a jack-off bandit. Missed your chance at calling him the hijacker. Creepy then funny. I was a property manager at a giant apartment complex for a year. Part of my job was to take complaints that came in during my off hours, review tapes to see what the cams caught, then address the problem. We got calls for people ducking in the spa a lot. On the video, a young couple was doing the biz in the spa in just about every position. I recognized them and got the form out to issue the warning when the maintenance supervisor says hold on. He zooms all the way in and across the property. He could see a woman we all knew sitting on her patio smoking a cigarette watching. We thought, oh man, she's enjoying the show. Then we notice there's the glow of the cig and a second glow, a small red light. She was taping the whole thing with a handy cam. She was a pastor at the local church who was always telling us how bad we were for allowing smoking and drinking on the property. She recommended multiple times that we update our rules to align more with the moral teachings of the church. Working in a rehearsal studio for bands, we had camera at the front desk that pointed down the hall with the entrances to all the rooms. One day I'm sitting there minding my own business and noticed there was a girl sitting in the hallway outside one of the studios. She had come in with the band that was practicing and I just assumed she didn't feel like sitting in the loud space with the band. So I got up and went to tell her she was welcome to sit in the lobby where there was a couch and TV. I got around the corner and she wasn't there. I went back the desk and there she was, sitting in the hall waiting outside the room. So I went back out to find her not there again. I assumed she had gone into the room, so I went and knocked and they informed me that the girl had left a while before, just after they had gotten started practicing. So I went back and there she was, still on the camera. It was only then that I realized I had accidentally bumped the freeze frame button for the monitor. Mostly lots of sex. I've had to turn on the microphone and tell them to stop it or they'll be thrown out of the college gym. I used to do asset protection for a Walmart in a very heroin addicted area. The creepiest thing was seeing how fast someone would go from completely normal to absolutely out of it in the span of a year because of the drug. You could build a timeline of their demise through CCTV pictures and video. One man in particular really stood out to me. The first time I apprehended him, he was very polite and intelligent, just stealing to get his fix. A year later, and the fourth time I caught him, he was basically a shell of a man. He tried running from me and I looked him right in the eyes and said, "I know you. Gary last name. Please don't run." The look on his face of someone knowing him who he couldn't even remember will always stay with me. I investigated internal loss for Target, and one time, as I was walking a lady who stole thousands of dollars worth of stuff out in handcuffs with the police, she turned to me and said, "Thanks for being so nice to me. I will never forget that."